going off.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to AU4H Radio Real Talk. Conversation with Lee and Donna and myself, Laurie. We're glad to be here. And that was somebody's alarm. It wasn't mine. One of our alarm was going on. We're glad to be here tonight. And we missed last week. We've had quite an eventful month. This has been June just hasn't really worked out as we wanted it to. We've all been really busy, as many things come up. And so we did have to cancel the show, so our apologies there. But we're glad to be here tonight, and we figured this is the time of year to talk about summer safety tips. Just to remind people, if you're listening to this, to remind people that while you're out there having fun this summer, you need to really make sure that you keep yourself safe, keep your children, your family safe, and keep your pets safe. Because summer is a wonderful time to be out and doing things, but it's also, it has people have a tendency to forget that you do need to be safe out in the heat and out in the sun, because it can be dangerous, can be deadly, right? So yes. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm glad to be here, and we're going to let Lee open up, actually. Lee's going to start the show off tonight. Go ahead, Lee.
Hi. Summer the weather has been getting to the extreme temps even long before August. And yesterday here in Northwest Florida, it was 105, which was unbelievable.
Wow.
But we've been in the high 90s, up as high as 99. And it's really important to practice summer safety and learn the signs and warnings for heat-related illnesses, for kids and for adults. And the animals are another important subject that I want to talk about, because I've seen too many animals that have been left in cars. The temps are very hot, when even in their 90s, and the car windows will be cracked, and some people would leave a little bit of water in the vehicle for their animal. But the fact is that temp can jump. The temp can jump even in a matter of 10 minutes. It can go up. It can climb up to about 20, 30 degrees higher. And it's,
yes,
a lot of animals have died because of that. People don't pay attention. We want to take our pets everywhere, and that's a wonderful thing. Keep your buddy with you. But the temperature inside your vehicle can rise almost 20 degrees, in 10 minutes, and almost 30 degrees in 20 minutes. But the longer you wait, the higher it goes. In just an hour, the inside temperature for your vehicle can be more than 40 degrees higher than the temperature outside. So if the temperature outside is even, let's say, 70 degrees, okay, that's 110 degrees inside your vehicle. And that puts your pet, your beloved companion, at risk of serious illness and possible death. And a lot of people don't realize that, and that can happen even on a day that doesn't seem hot to you. So, even just cracking your windows, that's not going to make a difference. And I'm just asking that you please be aware of the temperatures, and, leave your beloved pet at home. It's where they're safest. It's where they're coolest. My buddy Otis, is a Chihuahua. He does go pretty much everywhere with me possible, but when it starts getting warm, I have to leave him at home. Absolutely. What I did buy last year for him, and a lot of pet stores will have the same thing also. It's called a cooling vest. And although this is a little bit bigger because they didn't have a small enough size, but this is adjusted well enough to fit him. And all you do, this is the cooling vest. This is where his head would be. And then, the chest part. And we've got the secures with those. What happens with that, you take it and you dunk it into cool water. You get it very wet, and then you wring it out, and then you put it on your animal. And it does work. It's an incredible, it's not it's not a $10 item, but it's well worth the purchase. We all love our animals, whether they're companion pets, whether they're an emotional or psychiatric support animal. It is really important that we do all we can to take care of them too and help them stay cool. It's been in the very high temps here, so I haven't even been bringing him outside except in the morning, and out quickly to, take care of business. But we go right back in the house. It is, excuse me. So, it's really important that, you watch the temps. And a lot of people, we love to take our animals for a walk. We love to go for a walk together with your dog in the morning or in the late afternoon or evenings, but it's still incredibly hot. And there is something that's very important that I've been able to share and help a few people understand, is that the pavement. Now I've got some tough feet. I'm a barefoot gal, through and through. If I got to put shoes on, my feet cry. But the thing is, it was really hot on the pavement today, and I just walked across the street to pick up my mail from the mailbox, and it was really hot on my feet. It burnt my feet. The thing is, if you put your hand down, if you put the back of your hand down, like you're taking the temperature, we take our children's temperature or grandchildren, and you're feeling the forehead and it feels hot. You take your hand and you put the back of your hand on the pavement. And if you cannot keep it there for 5 seconds without, ow, that's hot, it is way too hot for your animal. Many animals will pant. Now, cats are different, and they have more of a difficulty cooling down outside than dogs do. Dogs will pant, but lost the word there. They cool down through their feet, through the bottom of their paws, and their paws can get burnt very quickly out in the heat. I saw somebody walking the dog yesterday in the afternoon, and it's in the high. It was, like I said, it was 105 yesterday.
Yeah.
So I was really unhappy, but I didn't go and approach them because they didn't seem to be approachable. When I want to share something, with an experience for myself yesterday with the heat. Now, I went from getting in my car because I absolutely had to, go down to Walmart and pick something up. So I went in the car, drove 10 minutes to Walmart, not even 10 minutes from the trip to my home to the parking lot, and then going in the store for 5 minutes, grabbing the items and coming back out and coming home. I was literally wiped out. And it didn't take too long where I was sitting on the couch and I was ready to pass out. And that's from the heat. That's from the heat that's out there. My face was between red and purple. And, that was, I didn't think I got that hot, where it was purple. But I looked and I took a picture. And then I realized it was 105 degrees. So it's like staying cool is really, really important. You can go to the beaches. You can go to you can go swim in the pool, but if you're outside, that sun is going to get you. And that increases the temperature drastically. And people don't think about that, but that is something very, very important that you need to think about. I wanted to share something about the kids in 2018 and 2019. There were a total of 53 hot car deaths. It's like in 70%, 75% of the hot car deaths were children 2 years old and under. And so we've got to remember that we've got kids in the car too. I know how, we're rushing here and rushing there. And I still cannot understand how anybody can forget they have a child in the car with them. And that's something that you've got to really pay attention to. If you've got to, I've read where someone take off a shoe, take off one of your shoes or even one of the baby's shoes, or one of the baby shoes, I'm sorry. You take off one of your shoes, put it in the back with the baby or where your child is buckled, And then you're going to have to remember, you get out and like, oh, I'm minus a shoe. What did I do with it? Oh, yeah, it's in the back seat. And, and that's, a good way to be reminded that you've got a precious child back there, a precious life.
You should
It's
remember.
really important. This year is even worse than last year. And we're only in the mid-June.
That's right.
And if it was 105 here yesterday, I cannot even begin to imagine the temps that we're going to have in August. And I read something earlier about the temps in Arizona and California. We're like in 120s. And it's like it's crazy. The climate is really insane. But you've got to protect yourself, and you've got to watch out for the heat-related illnesses. You keep hydrated. I cannot stress the importance of hydration. Water. Water, purified water, tap water. Be drinking water all day. You don't have to guzzle it. That's because you'll get sick from guzzling. But, be sipping water all day. I go through, I don't know how many bottles of these a day as it is without being out in the heat. And I drink more out there. But the second you reach for a drink thinking, oh, wow, I'm really thirsty. I haven't had a drink in a while. You're actually already begun to dehydrate. So it's really critical that you keep drinking water. And, kids will run around, until they drop, from exhaustion. And you got to be careful. They're not going to drop from heat exhaustion or experience heat stroke. And there are a lot of signs that you need to be aware of. And the CDC has some really great information about the different signs from heat stroke, starting with the cramps, and then the heat exhaustion, which Laurie can definitely relate with her recent experience. You can be nauseous, you can be so sick to your stomach, you can be there's just so many different signs there that you can look out for. Just be very careful, because if you end up past heat exhaustion and get heat stroke, that's critical. That is critical. I mean, that can result in death. Sometimes it can be fatal. So you got to be very careful. And if Laura, you want to share your experience on that, how you had felt and what we went through, and you have an experience to share as well with
sure. Yeah, I'll mention that. Yeah, like I was at work, and it's not. I live in Canada. I live in Alberta, Canada, and it gets hot here. Just people think Canada, oh, it's not that hot, but it's 90 to 100 here in the summertime too, Fahrenheit. So right now it's actually not all that hot, but Friday it was in the night. It was close to 92, 93, and it was hot, no doubt. I was working, and it was in the afternoon, and I had been drinking plenty of fluids, lots of water, and staying hydrated. But it was just so hot all day. Actually, that was on Sunday, and all weekend was really hot. And I work in it's like a farmer's market, like a indoor type place, and it was one of the food places actually had it was so hot that their oven actually overheated and almost started on fire, and so there was a lot of smoke coming at me. So I had that on top of that. Plus I was wearing a mask inside, wearing a mask, a face mask. So it was really difficult to breathe for about 2 hours, the last 2 hours of my shift. And I got off work, and the sun was just beating down, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was in the 90s. It was hot. And I didn't realize that I was experiencing any issues with heat exhaustion or anything like that, because I wasn't feeling disoriented or too dizzy, but I realized I was very tired. And I thought, okay, I'm not even going to try to take the bus home, because I would have to stand in the sun for like another half hour outside in the heat. So I took a cab home, which I thought was really smart. I took a cab home, came in, and thought, okay, I need to cool down. So I started just doing things to cool my body down. I didn't realize how close I was to heat exhaustion until Monday morning, because I woke up and I was feeling pretty sick. So that just tells you how fast that can happen. And I wasn't even really exerting myself. It wasn't like I was out running around, playing volleyball or anything like that. I wasn't exerting myself that much. I was sort of just standing around at work, hanging around. So, it's dangerous and it can sneak up on you. Heat-related issues can sneak up on a person. In the Grand Canyon, many years ago, I used to work in the Grand Canyon because I'm from the States, from New Mexico originally, and I went to work in the Grand Canyon for almost a year, cooking there in one of the resorts, like hotels, and it's hot there in the Grand Canyon in the summertime. But I was already there for almost a year, and I was acclimatized, and I was already used to the heat from living in New Mexico. But my sister came to visit, and she wanted to go down into the Grand Canyon to take a little walk and see the sights. It's a beautiful area. It's gorgeous. Lots of people go there to hike and, hike down into the canyon. So many beautiful vistas, and just amazing. So we decided to go down, but there's a point where they actually tell you if you don't have water, don't go any further. But we didn't have any water on us, but I was okay. She says, I said, we'll just go a little further. So we only went, maybe 10 minutes further down and walked back up. And by the time we got back up, my sister was laying on the ground with heat exhaustion. And she was sick for like 3 days. Literally, she was shaking, nauseous, throwing up, confusion. We were watching her, to make sure she didn't go into a coma or something. It was like, that's how fast that can happen.
It can be bad though.
Oh yeah, people boating, out there on the lake, or out there in their boats, not thinking about how harsh that sun can really be. And you have to be careful because you don't, summertime shouldn't be a time of grieving somebody's loss. People don't realize how serious this is, but every year there are deaths related to heat.
It is.
And overexposure to heat. And no one wants to lose someone in their family member to that, or a friend, or, a neighbor. It's just not okay. Everybody needs to be aware of this stuff and how dangerous it really is. So, make sure that you don't take those risks, and say, oh, it'll be fine. We don't need we don't need to have extra water. We don't need to be wearing a hat, things like, we don't need to stay out of the sun. Be really careful. It's dangerous,
It is very dangerous because if you remember, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I had my grandson at the park program. He was 3 years old. It's a really nice program. They go, they make a craft, they play games, they have lunch. Well, him and the other kids, they were playing around, and he is one of those people where he only drinks water. He has never had a drink of juice or pop or anything. He's all about water. If you even ask him, he'll say, no, thank you. I got my water. He's 10 now.
That's actually amazing.
it is. But I had him at the park and he was playing with all the kids, and all of a sudden I seen him go to the ground, and I sat there for a second and I waited for him to get up, and he didn't. And then I started walking over and I called out his name, and he just laid there. Pretty soon I started running to him. I get over to him and he was laying there. He was out cold. And I like kind of was trying to move him around a little bit, like touching him, trying, calling out his name. Finally, I just reached down and I picked him up because I was going to get him to a cool spot. And I said, come on, baby, wake up. Come on, because it scared me to death. And finally, he opened his eyes. Yeah, he opened his eyes and he says, I'm okay, Graham. He said, I just got hot. I had to lay down for a minute. And I'm like, I was calling your name. You were out cold. So I took him to the doctor just to have him looked at. And I said, we weren't there 15 minutes when this happened. And he actually said, it doesn't take very long for things like that to happen. It can be a few minutes. That heat, it's murder on your body. He said, and especially for children. And like I said, he was 3, maybe 4 years old at the time. So it took a toll on him. It scared me to death.
Oh yeah. It's amazing how fast it happens.
Yeah. It did. It scared me so, so bad. And I can remember that doctor saying, it only takes a short time. And I'm like, we were there no more than 15 or 20 minutes. And he said, you have to think of the size of the child. He said the age, and he said that is huge. And he said, people don't realize a few minutes in that heat, especially when it's really hot with the humidity, it's dangerous for really anybody, but especially a small child. So I understand what she was saying about, like leaving your pet in a car or even a small child in the car, which I too don't understand how anybody can forget they have a child in the car. I had a very bad habit that even when my kids were small, I would put my purse on the back seat. And I just always got in the habit of doing that. And we had a class a couple years ago, and it was with young mothers and everything. And they were saying about how easy it is to forget your child. And I said, well, put your purse on the back seat, put your cell phone on the back seat, put something on the back seat that you're going to remember. And the whole time I kept thinking, can you believe that I'm actually having this conversation? Because, I'm telling these people, put something back there that you'll remember, like your purse or your phone, but you don't remember your child.
So. It's so true though, right? Because we see this happening where children are, dying every year. Yeah. And the reason, was that the parent or the caregiver forgot the child was there. Or I don't know how that can happen, but I guess it can. So it's kind of like, well, to make sure. I like your idea. That's great. Put something back there that you're going to need. Like Lee was saying, a shoe, your purse, your cell, whatever, your cell phone. And that way, you're not going to get out of the vehicle without reaching around back there to get it. So then you won't forget your child is back there. I don't know how.
No, but that's what they were saying. They're like,
child's back there, but
well, it was
it doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, it was funny because they're like, what are what should we do to remember? And I'm like, you have a child and you don't remember? And well, it's easy to forget sometimes, especially if they're sleeping. And I'm like, well, then put something back there that's important to you, like your cell phone or your purse. I said, even before I had kids, I'd always throw my purse on the back seat or my jacket on the back seat. I mean, it's just what I always did. And I said, well, that's a pretty good idea to help you remember. But I laugh sometimes because I think we have to say to you, throw your cell phone or your purse back there to remember your child. Like you just wouldn't remember your child.
Yeah, just in case, right? It's so important. That's the thing. And people are still doing it. With those hot temperatures that I was just talking about at the market where I work. There were 2 times that the management had to use the intercom system to tell 2 people that they had left their animals, their pets in the vehicle, and it was too hot, and the pets looked like they were in distress, and that they needed to go and address that. And that just tells you that's only one weekend, one city. It's it happens, right? And people just need to think about these things, and that's the problem. I don't think people they don't do that on purpose. It's not like they're saying, oh, I'm going to let my dog suffer, or, my child suffer. It's they're just not thinking, and it's like, okay, you got to think about stuff like this. And so it's just important to remember that heat's going to be intensified, like Lee was saying, and magnified by so many points. It's like 100 outside, it's going to be 150 in the car, or 140. So the pets and children just can't tolerate that. So you need to we all need to be really careful what we're doing. We really do.
Yes, we do.
I know one thing I wanted to mention, and that's like safety around arroyos and ditches, city water drainage ditches and things like that. Cement, areas where they'll cement a a ditch that goes through the city to allow for runoff during flooding seasons and things like this. Many times you see children either skateboarding down those things or riding their bikes down those things or walking in them. Sometimes you see adults walking down those things. And people don't realize how dangerous that really is.
It is dangerous.
Yeah, there could be water coming from anywhere. It doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have to be raining in the city at the time for those things to fill up with water, because that can be coming from anywhere. So you have to really be careful. When I was young, we lived really close to one of those arroyos. They call them arroyo in New Mexico, drainage system through the city and the mountains. Water comes flowing, this flooding off of the mountains there in the desert. And because it's clay, it doesn't sink into the ground. It just flows down. So they created several of these ditches at arroyos through the city to carry the water down to the river. And kids play in those things all the time. Well, when I was young and growing up, we were very close to one. And we were actually on the bridge walking over. And we saw these kids all going down this arroyo in this water that was just pouring down and coming down like these rapids, right? And these kids were like, help, help, right? And nobody would have seen them. We were really lucky to have seen them, because if we hadn't been on top of that bridge, they may not have been seen, and they would have just ended up drowned. So we ran to the closest house, called 911, and they were saved. But that just tells you how dangerous that really is. They were out riding their bikes, and there wasn't any rain or anything like that. But within a short time, it had rained on the mountains, and that water just came rushing down. And because they were the arroyos were bone dry until that rain came down. So those kids, they had no clue that was going to happen. So just be careful out there, you know?
Yes, it's important. I was actually telling Lee today, I said, I almost drowned once.
Yeah, that's
living here in Pennsylvania, we were considered a water town because the Susquehanna runs through. And myself and some friends, we either would, it's kayak, canoe, tube, boat. I mean, they're huge things that go on here in the summertime. And my friend Tracy, she had said, let's go tubing today. The river was low. It was probably August, and usually in August we go through a drought here, meaning that you can walk across the entire river, and sometimes it's no higher than like thigh high. At the lowest in places, it's ankle deep. So, okay, sure, we'll set out. We'll go have a good time today. And we got there, and we put our tubes in, and we started down, and we're laughing and talking and joking, and all of a sudden, I kind of like adjusted myself on the inner tube, and I just wasn't sitting right. So I kind of got off the tube, like so that I could get back on, kind of to get comfortable, And all of a sudden, when I stepped down, I went completely underwater, and I kept trying to come up. Well, my tube kind of got away from me, so I kept trying to get up out of the water. Here, Tracy thought I was joking with her, and she kept splashing the water at me, and she was laughing, and I kept yelling, help me, help me. Every time I would come up out of the water, I'd say, help me. And she laughed. She thought I was joking. And I swear it was God told me, lay on your back and float, because that's what came in my mind. And it kept saying it over and over again. And I did. And finally, I floated till I got to a spot where I could put my foot down and touch. I put my foot down and I touched, and I stood up, and I said to her, oh, I was so mad. I'm like, you idiot, I almost drowned. And she started laughing. She's like, you know how to swim? And I said, no, I don't. I said, I don't. And she's like, you live in a river town and you don't know how to swim? And I'm like, no, I do not know how to swim. And then she felt really bad. And it was like, I was angry for a few seconds, because it was like, hey, I could have drowned. I had 2 kids, and a spouse. And she's like, I had no idea.
Right.
And I know when my first grandson was born, swim, I don't care. And then I have 2 other grandchildren that's a little bit younger, and they're actually going to take swimming lessons, and I'm going to take swimming lessons with them. I'm going to be older, but I'm actually going to do the swimming lessons myself. I want to learn to swim. I mean,
that's awesome.
29. However, However, but I really do want to learn to swim. I mean, if anything would ever happen to even one of my grandchildren or any child, I couldn't help them. I'd stand there helpless because I can't swim. So this summer, I am going to learn to swim.
That's good. Right on.
I'm excited.
That's very cool. Yeah, swimming is awesome. I used to like to swim, and I think it's very good to know how to swim just in case, right? My niece. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I absolutely love the water. Like I said, we have actually we have the river, the Susquehanna River. We have Young Women's Creek, and then we have another creek called. It's part of Young Woman's Creek, but it's Red Rose Goncalo. So we're surrounded by water where we live. Yeah. And I absolutely love the water. But like, again, I can't swim. And everybody kind of laughs because they're like, you live right near water. And it's like, I know, but I don't know how to swim. Or you go to the beach. I absolutely love the beach. But again, I will not go in water up past my waist. And I know 2 years ago, my son and my daughter-in-law got married. And we all the Florida Keys for the wedding. We did like a family vacation for, I believe it was like 10 days. And we get down there and again, I wouldn't go past waist deep. And my daughter-in-law's father, he actually said, he's like, I'm like you. I don't go any further than my waist because I can't swim, but I love the water. And it's like, here we were, like from 2 different towns, 2 different communities. We both love the water.
I do too. I love the water. I'm a water baby.
Yeah, it's awesome to be able to swim. I'm not sure, but I think we have a strange connection.
I think so. My screen got black for a second.
It's drowning. Drowning is the leading cause of death, of injury death in children ages 1 through 4. I mean, it only takes seconds. Drowning can happen in seconds. You blink your eyes and the child can drown. And young kids, they can drown in as little as 1 inch or 2 of water.
Yes.
That's not a lot of water.
No.
And it happens quickly and it happens silently. And it's something to be very, very aware of and be mindful that, you can turn for not even 30 seconds and you turn back and it can happen. It can happen that quick. It's really, really important, to be careful and, to watch the kids and don't leave them in the small pools. Where I live, we're not allowed to have pools of any type here. And, we got a notice actually last week about that because some people did have pools. And I watched as, a young child, and she's probably about 1 year old, maybe 1.5 years, was left like for 10 seconds, 15 seconds while the parent went back inside the door and came out. But that child was with 2 smaller kids who were they're toddlers. They may be 4, 5 years old. And, it's something, I sat there, I was eagle-eyed because something happened that quick, when they came back out and, the pools have since been removed. But it's a serious thing, and you want to keep your child cool. That's really good. And get the sprinklers, the back and forth sprinklers we used to run through as a kid.
That's what I have.
Have those, and some of the families have slip and slides. And like half the neighborhood is over. It's fun. They're staying cool and they're being safe. And that's really, really important, and it's important, if you only go as far as if you go into a pool and you're not going to the beach, it can still happen that quickly. The water wings, the safety vests, everything is really, really important. I wanted to show real quickly the warning signs and some symptoms from the CDC on heat-related illnesses, heat-related illnesses are very preventable. Yes. They are very preventable. Sorry. What to look for when, they go, you start the heat rash, you get the sunburn. We're all familiar with that. We've been, crispy critters. Some of us burn more easily. My son is so fair-skinned that he burns really, really quickly. But then, the heat cramps with the heavy sweating, when you're doing intense exercises in the heat, your muscles are spasming, so what do? You stop whatever activity you're doing and get yourself to someplace with shade, someplace that's cooler, and start sipping on some water or sports drink, which, Gatorade is one of or Powerade. Those are the two ones that are fairly well known. And you wait for those cramps to go away before you go back. And if your cramps last longer than an hour, you need to get medical help right away, and get medical help right away if you're on a low sodium diet, or if you have heart problems. Next one is heat exhaustion, which is something that, both Laurie and I experienced very recently as the weekend, and for me yesterday, but really, really important. I almost ended up in the emergency room when I went to visit my two oldest grandkids. That was back in 2017, before my son ended up moving up north. But the heat exhaustion is you're sweating heavily, you're sweating profusely. Your skin can get cold and feel clammy. And sometimes you may think, okay, your skin is cool and clammy, you're okay, you're not hot, but that's not true. Your pulse can get weak, you get nauseous, and you can be vomiting. You have the muscle cramps. You're tired. You're weak. That have severe headaches. You can even pass out. You can faint and pass out, just like little man did there. And it's just very, very important that you get yourself to a cool place if you can, and loosen your clothing, depending on how much you have on. You put cool, wet compresses or washcloths, and you can put them in under your armpits. You can put them around your neck, around the back of your neck, and actually you can put them in your groin areas on either side. Those are those are the areas that even medical personnel, your doctor will tell you about. You want to cool down quick, or if your child has a fever, that's put it on the back of the neck, under the armpits, or in the groin. And if you can, get you or your child, whoever is experiencing the heat exhaustion, get them into a cool tub, if you can, and help them cool down that way. And you need to get medical help. If you're vomiting, you need to seek medical help. You need to get yourself to the hospital, or whether it's making a call for 911 or having somebody take you, or having somebody make that call. If symptoms last longer than an hour, especially, and then you have the heat stroke, which your body temp is 103 or higher, and you've got all the other symptoms, and that's call 911. Call 911 because this is a severe medical emergency, and do not give that person anything to drink, not even water. I mean, unless 911 instructs you to do that. But that is, these are preventable. As long as you're watching out, you know what to look for, you know the signs, and the CDC they have a big old infographic that you can actually, you can print out and you can keep handy. And it's really, really important that you do that. Like I said, when I was visiting my two oldest grandkids, I mean, it was really hot, and it was down 100, that summer when I was there, and that was at the beginning of the summer. It was in mid-June, and my legs got very weak, and I almost dropped, and I was very, very lightheaded, and I was at the point where I was ready to have them call 911, but I managed to work through that. But being the daughter and granddaughter of two career nurses, and working in the field, not as a nurse, but in helping others as an aide, I have a little more awareness and knowledge of what to do, but not everybody knows.
No.
And it's really, really important, it's really important that you know the signs and symptoms, what to do, and always be prepared. I've got cases of water. I've got, water in the car. I've got, cases in the closet. I've got half a case in the fridge. And the summer months when it gets really hot, I keep extra bottled water and some Gatorade in the refrigerator for, maintenance workers or the guys that are coming around doing the lawn care, because
That's
I know
awesome.
how it gets and they don't
It is.
often take breaks. You get in, you're working, but I know how quickly things can change, and I know how fast they can become deadly. So I'm constantly giving out water. You need water? I've got bottled water, and they're like, "Oh, thank you." So it's really critical. And yes, I don't guzzle. You'll always catch me sipping on water. I'm carrying a couple of bottles wherever I go. Throw it in the bag, and like I said, I've always got it in the car. And it's really important that you do that. Drinking, a lot of soda or a lot of coffee or alcohol because it has water in it. The water helps, but yeah, so you get dried out. You get dried out with a lot of the soda and other things that you drink out there. So while soda can be great, for those of you who love it, and I love root beer every once in a while. Other than that, I really don't drink soda, but root beer, yeah. But you can actually, you can dehydrate quicker than you think you could.
Yeah.
And even if you're at the beach and you're out there swimming, you're in the water, it's still not good enough. You need to keep sipping on water and you need to stay hydrated. Like I said before, I cannot stress enough how important that is.
Mm-hmm.
It
It's
is.
really important. And you need to learn how to swim. That's really important. We'll get you some water wings.
That's right. Good.
But yeah, I'm in the water. I'm a water baby, and I've been swimming. I'm a fish. I've been a fish since I was a little kid. I helped out, but one of my parents, my father, wasn't really good at floating. He'd try to do. You can do the dead man's float or float on your back, but he would like, boom, he would sink right to the bottom of the pool. So even as an adult, so it's important.
It is. My son was joking
When you
around.
do all that.
He told me he's going to get me the little arm floaties for the pool.
Right, keep yourself safe and learn. It's not everybody can swim. There's a great number of our population that doesn't know how to swim. That love the water just like you. So you're not alone. You're not alone.
No. Lots of people don't know how to swim. And
it just feels weird because I'm so old, and it's like there's little kids like swimming right by me, and I'm like,
it's easier to teach a child how to swim than an adult. Children can learn how to swim really quickly. It's harder as an adult to learn, but swimming is actually really easy to learn, and you'll learn.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, I love to swim, and my sister years and years ago, one of my sisters had a pool in the backyard, and it wasn't. There was no small children around, so her children were grown, so she wasn't. They had the yard fenced off correctly, stuff like that to prevent neighbors' children from coming in and accidentally coming in the gate and then wanting to swim and drowning. So they also had a pool cover that was locked. But we were swimming one day, and I was swimming in the pool, and the family was all sitting across the yard at the table and chairs, talking and stuff, patio table and chairs. I was in the pool swimming, and the only one in that area. There was nobody else around. My little niece, who was not even hardly like a year old, maybe a year and a half or something, like just a little wee, tiny, barely walking little toddler, saw me jump in and decided to jump in too.
Oh my goodness.
I jumped in and dived in and was coming up, and I see these little feet, and I'm like, that's my niece's little feet. So I was like, what is she doing? So I went really fast. I swam up there, grabbed her and got her to the side. In the meantime, I'm yelling at the family, hello, help, and they're sitting there just totally ignoring the situation. So if I had not been in the pool, I seriously think my niece would have drowned, because there were 5 adults sitting at the table who still didn't come, even though I was yelling for help, for them to help me to get her out of the pool, right? So it just tells you people are quite often, and they weren't drinking, they were just talking and having coffee, and they were not paying any attention to me or anything over by the pool. That just tells you how fast that can happen. And every year, children are killed unnecessarily, die from drowning accidents in people's pools. And you don't want that to be your child. You don't want that to be anybody else's child if you have a pool.
Yeah.
So learn the safety, learn it and practice it. Do it.
My granddaughter has this thing where she loves the water, but she'll put her face in the water, and you literally have to like lift her up. And I don't understand. She's 3 years old, but it's weird because she'll literally put her face in the water, and like she won't lift her head back up. And it's like we have no idea why she does this. And I'm like, yeah, she definitely needs swimming lessons. Definitely.
Yeah, it's just a good idea.
Do that. I never seen a child just put their face in the water and just kind of lay there. You know what I mean? Like that's.
She must be holding her breath.
Well, I think what she did was she seen the older two boys swimming the one day, and they had on the goggles, and they were looking underwater. And I think that's what she tries to do, but it scares me to death. Yeah,
it's just a good idea to, I think it's a good idea that children do learn how to swim. Because that way, not only that they're, they can swim then, but then they can also enjoy summer activities, that other children get to enjoy, which is, actually going swimming, right? But it's just a good idea, because then they learn how to swim, they learn water safety too at the same time. And I think that's just so important, right?
It is.
And for the adults too, to learn water safety, how important it really is. And, no one wants to lose a child to a drowning like that.
Yeah. Oh my God, no.
A grandchild, anybody in your family, or, a neighbor's child. It's just, you don't want that, right? So I think, everybody needs to just be aware of these things, right? It's so important.
I think a lot of people get busy and they get sitting around like talking or joking or laughing, and they, they're watching the kids at first. They're really paying attention. And then you just look away for a quick second, and then anything can happen in a blink of an eye. And I think a lot of people, they don't think that it can happen to them. And we all know it can happen at any time. That's so water safety is best.
Hey, it can happen quickly. I have a longtime friend who's one of his nieces, actually one of his brothers it was at the family pool, and it happened that quick. This was a long time ago, but it's something that can happen. It's tragic. And there was no blame there. It was a very tragic accident. It was a very, very young child in the family pool, and they didn't get her in time. I'm sorry.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Well, and that's the issue. It's the same with my niece. Like, it's not like my sister's a bad mom, or you know what I mean?
Oh, no.
My niece they thought she was playing in the grass by them, I guess, and didn't even think anything about it, right? And they're just talking and yakking, and I'm like, trying to get her to the edge of the pool with one hand, trying to swim, and I'm not a certified bodyguard, so I'm doing the best I can to get her over there. And I'm thinking, hello, you think they could hear me making a lot of noise and yelling about the fact that Kimberly was in the pool, my niece, and they're just like totally oblivious, I finally had to get out of the pool with her and go over there and get mad at them and tell them off for not paying attention. And then they were like, well, oh my God. They were like, thank you. Oh my God, it's a miracle you were in the pool. Because I said, well, the reason why she jumped in the pool is because she saw me jump in the pool. But the thing is like, she wasn't anywhere near me when I went in. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done that. So she just came booking over, I guess, right? Because I wouldn't have jumped in just having her standing on the edge like that,
No.
So that's just scary. And I'm glad that I was there, actually. I don't think she would have jumped in had she not seen me do it, right? But the thing is that's just how it can happen. So it's so important, for people to realize, you do have to watch out for that sort of thing. Summer's fun. Everybody loves to be around pools. I know I do too. But I know especially children and families together wanting to do stuff around pools and lakes and rivers, and you just have to be really careful, really, really careful.
Yeah, we do. Well, Laurie, I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight, and I really want to thank everyone who has supported us and tuned in for season 1. We're going to take a little break for the summer, but we will be back in August. I'm really excited for the new season. We have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of interviews and guests, and that's going to be absolutely amazing. If anyone wants more information on Real Talk, AU4H Radio, they can stop by our website, and it is in the description below. But we just want to remind everyone to stay cool, stay in shaded areas, keep yourself hydrated, wear clothing that is loose and light. Don't overdo it, regardless if it's work, play, or exercise, and most of all, we just want to tell people to protect themselves and protect their children with the sun. And, like I said, stay in the shade, use sunscreen. All those are vital in the summer months. We all love summer. I do. It's my favorite time of year. But stay informed, and know the signs and symptoms of heat overexposure, and keep yourself and your family safe. But again, we thank everyone for tuning in. We look forward to season 2, and thank you for joining us. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful, and we'll see you next season. Take really good care of yourself.